All right, we are live. This is Tyler Wynn, CPA. I'm the founder at Cirrus Payroll. I've got Sean Deaver on the call. He's a CPA as well, and the founder of Express Payroll. And we've got lots of good stuff to talk about today. Sean, thanks for jumping on with me for a chat.
Hey, thanks for being here.
Yeah,
glad to be here.
Good to see you virtually. Sean is. I've been lucky enough to also meet him in person here in Tulsa. A few years ago, we had some pizza and beers at Anthony's.
I remember.
That was a good time. That
sure was.
That would have been pre-COVID, right?
That would have been, yeah.
So that was
sure.
That was
a while ago.
That was a good time. We'll have to do that again.
For sure.
Sean's in Massachusetts, Westboro, Massachusetts. Is that right?
Yep. Just outside of Boston.
Okay. Awesome. Well, we got a few topics to talk about with Sean today. I'm really interested in talking more about his business model. He's a CPA who has an accounting and tax firm, and he also has broken out a separate payroll business, Express Payroll. That's a strategy I recommend to a lot of accountants that really want to get into the payroll business. Obviously, a lot are trying to exit it, and Sean and me and people like us love to partner with accountants like that. But if you're serious about it and you want to create it as a real proposition in your firm, I think spinning up a separate payroll entity is a really smart thing. Don't see a lot of people doing it. So Sean, I want to talk more about that.
Sure.
Talk about some of the challenges you're facing in your firm and what you're doing to overcome those. And then Sean also has some other services he provides that I've worked with him on that I'd love to share with everybody. So why don't we just kind of start out, Sean, with you talking a little bit about yourself, your CPA, you've got your firm, how'd you get started? Talk about your growth journey.
Yeah, sure. Years ago, I went to college for accounting, like most. From there, kind of jumped into one of the big firms. I worked several years, almost 10 years at Deloitte, downtown Boston. And
I don't know if I knew you were Deloitte. I'm a Deloitte guy too.
Yeah. Back in the day, Deloitte and Touche, and
nice.
Pre-Deloitte. And so basically at that point in time, after Deloitte, I left and went into the private world, started doing tax returns just on the side as a hobby for friends and family. And that kind of just snowballed a little bit. So I had a pretty decent, I was kind of, juggling two things, if you will, a full-time job as a controller at a private company, and then doing some tax work on the side during tax season. So at the time, that was just kind of, money to take the kids to Disney or, bigger Christmas gift at the end of the year or something. And it kind of turned into something larger than I had anticipated. We started taking on some small business clients. And to be honest with you, again, it just snowballed. I don't want to say out of control, because it was very strategic in how many clients I would take on and accept during the year, but it grew. And then at some point in time, I actually looked into, kind of dabbling in the world of payroll. It was something I was planning on doing just kind of for my clients itself. If I had 50 clients or 40 clients, I don't remember the number, but just kind of satisfying them specifically. At that point in time, I was kicking the tires with, white labeling with ADP and, paychecks and so on. And that's when I stumbled across Payroll Relief. And obviously that's how you and I met. And, certainly, this goes back probably 15 years ago. I signed on with them, and it was just a pure in-house thing that was not a separate standalone entity. It was just kind of part of my service, if you wanted it. And at the beginning, of course, I was hesitant. I was going from having an annual relationship with people where I spoke to them at tax time to now like a bi-weekly relationship. So that was certainly a concern. And I didn't want to just dive in, feet first, if you will. I wanted to dabble a little bit. And
did you ever outsource before you signed up with Payroll Relief and started processing for clients? Had you been outsourcing or referring that out before that?
Probably referring it. Yep. I can't recall exactly to who. I'm sure it was ADP or Paychecks. As a CPA, they knock on my door pretty often and bring me chocolates and asking for referral work. So at the time, that's probably one of the avenues I went.
Sure.
And frankly, the irony of the whole thing was I can remember a very good friend of mine who I looked as a mentor, who was a CPA. He was at the time Coopers and Lybrand, and left and kind of went on his own. He told me not to get into payroll. He said, listen, you don't want to do this. It's not profitable. You're never going to be able to compete with one of the big brands. So, stay away from it. And to be honest with you, that was, without doing any research, that was kind of the thought process that I had. So it took me many years to finally dabble in the world of payroll. And anyways, from there,
Why do you think he told you that? Sorry to interrupt, but why do you think he told you don't mess with it?
This goes back 15 years ago, way before the technology is what it is today.
Right.
There's obviously fear of, and I face this today. There are certain states that our current provider, Accountants World, can't support electronically. There's a lot of manual intervention. And this is 15 years ago, before we had all these benefits and sick time and vacation time and mandatory, 401k reporting and all of that type of stuff. So back then, I'm sure it had to do with, impounding taxes, filing tax forms.
Yeah.
To have someone on, to simply, I ran some numbers too, to bring on an associate to help out, especially during tax time, right? I mean, I don't do any payroll at all during tax time, January 1st to April 15th. You cannot reach me at all. So fortunately, I have staff to do that. But at one point in time, I didn't. So juggling, doing payroll, doing taxes, answering phone calls, people need QuickBooks help. And Sean, I got to do my payroll. And by the way, I got a notice from the IRS over here, just snowballing of concern. So to bring on
accountants on the call right now, I'm sure they're relating very.
Absolutely.
What you're talking about.
Yeah. And to bring on a person, to pay them year round, you need a decent amount of payroll clients to kind of support that if you're not going to do it on your own. And I just couldn't foresee myself doing it all at one time by myself. So taking on 5 clients wasn't a big deal. Right. But once you start getting to 20 or 30, now your phone rings a little bit more and you really don't have the time to dedicate to it. So, you really need to be planned and precise in how you're going to take on clients strategically, how many you're going to take on, how much time you're going to be able to lend to that type of activity and so on. Yeah. So that's
what do you think that tipping point is where you can afford to bring that person on? Because there is a point where it's like, well, I don't have enough clients or revenue to justify bringing on a staff member. Do you remember where that tipping point was?
I remember actually asking Accountants World, and they told me 30 to 40 clients was a number. Now, of course, certain clients in California, for example, where everything's automated, that's a little different than in Massachusetts, where everything isn't automated, which is way different than Pennsylvania, which is, I think we still use, abacuses over there. They're so behind the times when it comes to technology and all the local taxes and so on. So, it's certainly different. And, and then if you're lucky to have clients in like Texas, where there's no state tax, I mean, these are just making things a little easier. So I think it has a lot to do with where you kind of have your business, if you will.
Yeah.
But 30 to me, to be honest with you, if you're, I started advising clients to make my life easier. What do I mean by that? I started telling everyone, don't pay people weekly. It's just too much of a headache. That's because I didn't want weekly payrolls. I started putting people bi-weekly. And then I started saying, listen, I really think that this cycle is better for you than this one. And the real truth of the matter was, behind the curtain, it was because I needed to do 15 this week and 15 that week, as opposed to 30 all in 1 week. No one got hurt in the maneuvering here.
I think that stuff is win-win, because what I see a lot is, like, I'll have somebody come to me with a bunch of hourly employees and they pay them semi-monthly. Yeah. And I'm like, this is a nightmare for you to track when the pay period ends, when the pay dates land. Could be on a weekend holiday. You never know what day of the week. Why don't you streamline this and move it to bi-weekly? And definitely if it's weekly, if I'm like, your employees can tolerate it and you're not in an industry where this is
mandatory,
mandatory or whatever, like, or you're going to lose employees because you're not paying them every week, like, switch to bi-weekly, less administrative tasks. I'm actually going to charge you less fees for that. And so it kind of works out.
Yeah, we do the same. We do the same here. Yeah. Try to encourage them. And it's really not, at this point, not to make our lives easier, because we've got the infrastructure to handle what we have to handle. It's really just to make their lives easier. A lot of times people come to me, they're brand new companies. They don't know anything about anything. So they're really looking for the guidance. And we're now at a point where, again, they can choose whatever they want. We go through the pros and the cons. And to your point, bi-weekly is just a lot easier. Get your people paid every other Friday. Hours come in on the weekend or Monday morning, whatever. It just makes everything smoother for them.
Yeah. So going back to kind of where we left off on your story. So you got to a point where you're like, okay, I can't handle payroll and, the tax season work and the bookkeeping and the questions coming in and everything. So you hired somebody to help out. Was this a full-time, part-time hire? Who did you put in that role?
Yeah. So no, it was part-time, and it was actually part-time on Mondays and Tuesdays only. That person's still with me today. She's my manager of the payroll group. She's just a superstar employee. She manages the team, and it was perfect. She had a full-time job, and she had a job that got her out at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So she was like a 7 to 3. So I picked her up Mondays only. Mondays only became Mondays and Tuesdays. Mondays and Tuesdays became Mondays, Tuesdays, and every random Wednesday. Because a lot of times, as I trusted her more, she was able to take on more. I was paying well, so she was willing to take on more time. And because doing the payroll is one thing. Now you start taking on new clients. You got to do the priors. You got to load employees. You got to get historical data. So now you're talking about kind of putting all, could you imagine, as an accountant, right? A lot of people like to make their changeover at the end of the year or the end of a quarter, which certainly makes sense. We'll take them on at any point. But if you're talking about the end of the year, now I'm talking about all these clients coming on in November and December, going live in January, which, by the way, as an accountant is kind of my busy season. So, for me to sit there and say, let me stop and work on this 50 employee company and bringing them over, that's just a huge amount of time and effort. So me having her as a resource was fantastic to be able to help, again, just block and tackle all the things that you need to do as a payroll service provider. So she came on part-time, and it was about 2 years before then. I should probably let you know that I also, people that know me well would say I'm a bit of a workaholic. So I was working 7 days a week, doing a lot of the, that new payroll stuff over the weekends, nights, so this gray, I'm only 20, but this gray hair is, from all of those nights and weekends. So anyhow, you need to be prepared to put in that time and effort, of course. And payroll is one of those things where, tax returns you can extend. You can't extend payroll, right? If people don't get paid on Friday, you're getting a lot of phone calls. So you can't, the timing is very crucial, very important.
Can't extend the filings either. The pay dates, the filings.
That's right. So that kind of, I was about 2 years before, I think it was year 3, we brought my payroll manager on full time. And as I mentioned, she's been with me ever since. So having a person like that, a key individual, is just, priceless, if you will, someone you really need in your corner to help you out.
So what do you think so for accountants that are listening, you took a path where you said, I'm going to make this work. And other accountants, you would probably advise, hey, this probably isn't the path for you, just outsource it. What is the difference there? Is it a mindset thing? Is it like what causes people to need to take one path or the other to be wiser for their situation? Does that make sense?
It does. I don't know that I have a one-stop answer. I work with, I'm a CPA, as I have a few offices, and one of my offices, which I'm sitting in right now, I share with another CPA. And I think probably from that perspective, she was very comfortable doing tax work. She found someone she could work with as a partner and trusted. And, from a volume, it very well could have been a volume thing. Would I do this for 15? I wouldn't do this for 20 clients, honestly speaking. It's not worth it. I wouldn't do it for 30 clients. It's too much headache. It's too much learning. It's something goes wrong. People call you on nights and weekends. My payroll didn't go through. I'm NSF. My people didn't get paid. Tax time. My W-2s need to get printed. You need to, all my people didn't get their W-2s electronically, whatever. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So for me to do this for 20 or 30 clients, it's not, candidly, it's not worth it. I don't know where the number is. Oops, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that is the point of suffering that most accountants get to. They get to 10, 15, 20, 30 clients without the vision to grow beyond that. You get stuck there, and that I think where is the suffering at. So it's like you get to that point and you just need to decide, like, I either need to partner with somebody and outsource this, or I need to commit to it, hire the people like you talked about, that payroll manager or that specialist, even that part-time person to get started, and then grow from there. But I see so many people stuck at that limbo point, and it's like, hey, just make a decision. Like either go all in and decide you're going to make this an integral part of your firm, see the potential. You have to have a vision for it, right?
Sure.
If you have no vision for it, then it really becomes a place of suffering. And I would say, because I've probably had hundreds of conversations with other accountants about payroll, like that is where I would say 95% of them are, like right now.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, just in talking with the accountants world, the provider that we use, of course,
Uh-huh.
I think the average accountant has somewhere between 10 and 15 clients.
Mhm.
So, they're again trying to use it to again, just help out their, make their relationship full. Maybe they're doing
Mhm.
bookkeeping, maybe they're doing taxes, maybe they're doing payroll. And I agree, if it's just like, hey, it takes me 10 minutes a week, that's fine.
Mhm.
You can do what you want to do. It's probably not a profitable venture,
Right.
but it's probably not taking a lot of time. It's really more just for convenience for you to help out the
Sure.
client itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. If you want to make this a business, you need to hire staff, dedicate people, dedicate time, and it's something you really need to spend a lot of time growing and nurturing.
Here's a question for you. Do you have accountants that send you payroll referrals? And I'm curious of that because you also have an accounting firm, and I'm wondering if from a competitive standpoint, they might be nervous to do that.
Yeah, good question. And to be honest with you, no. We have I would say one or two. We do get referrals from bookkeepers.
Okay.
So we do have a lot of bookkeepers that they'll send us the tax work and they'll send us the payroll work.
Interesting.
So we do have I say a handful that we'll get resources for. But frankly, I mentioned earlier I share an office with another CPA firm. We get her referrals, but candidly, I don't know. I've had one or two one-offs. Guys retiring. He was doing the payroll. He wanted to look around, so he sent it to me. But I can understand the hesitation. That's one of the reasons we branded ourselves separately under the name Express Payroll, which is different than my CPA firm, which is Sean Deaver, CPA and Associates. So that is one reason, candidly speaking, it hasn't worked. But we're not marketing to CPAs either.
Sure.
I perhaps if I were knocking on their doors or sending them emails and so on, we perhaps could get some referral business out of that, but we don't.
So tell me when you made the decision to break out Express from Sean Deaver CPA.
Yeah, it was very early on. It probably wasn't year one because again, I was just handling internal. I think year one, we had 4 clients, maybe 5. Year 2, we grew 100%. We went to 8. I remember year 3, we grew another 100%, went to 16. And then something happened in year 4, we went to 64. So we leapt. And I think so it's probably around then that we kind of stripped ourselves and stripped it out and and kind of went with Express Payroll at that point.
And is that a separate EIN or is that a DBA for the CPA firm?
No, it is separate. It is a separate standalone company.
Gotcha.
It's got its own EIN. And so.
And why did you decide to do that rather than just because I assume a DBA could work, right? Do you have staff that are working on both sides of the business?
We do. Many of our folks work in both sides. The nice thing about it is in the off season for tax work, we do bookkeeping work. And then, of course, we maintain payroll for people year round. So we do. People hop over the fences pretty regularly.
Sure. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, that's great. You got people cross trained, and you can fill them in where you need. I had one because
we have people that do data entry. They're data entry. They're not doing tax returns, but we do have accounting and CPA people that they'll help out, when people want to go on vacation or certainly at 941 time, at W-2 time, when we get tax notices, that's pretty much handled on the tax side of the house. And we do get a lot of tax notices. So, we'll at quarter end, there's we deal, as I mentioned earlier, we deal in a lot of states with we deal with I think we're in 46 states
Mm-hmm.
with Accountants World. So many of them require manual intervention, whether it's, I'm in Massachusetts, so mass paid families, not something done electronically through Accountants World. So
Mm-hmm.
we, we have to log into the website and fill out hundreds of, manual sheets or manual uploads or whatever. We do a lot of 401k.
Mm-hmm.
That also is not well integrated with Accountants World. So we have people we have one woman who comes in on Friday, and all she does all day on Friday is logs into multiple sites and manually keys in contribution amounts or prints out checks and sends it with reports or whatever the formality is that has to take place. So those types of things, we utilize everyone in the shop for that.
Gotcha. Do you charge extra for that? Because that's something I haven't gotten into, the third party reporting.
We do. Some of the risks you run is, a lot of the other providers that I would consider competitors, it's a one-stop full integration. So it's difficult to say to them, hey, come to me. I'm really small. I don't have the technology that you're accustomed to. And by the way, I'm going to nickel and dime you for everything that we do, as opposed to the system you're using is fully one package.
Yep.
So we have to keep our pricing competitive. So we do charge, but it's, certainly fairly reasonably priced.
Yeah, makes sense. Awesome. So let's switch gears a little bit. So let's talk about, because I know we're streaming this out to our payroll relief user group on Facebook. Let's talk about the software a little bit. What led you to use payroll relief? Why have you stayed with it? What do you like about it? And then also, what are some of the challenges you're facing with it, and what creative solutions do you have to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, the software itself, I mean, you get what you pay for. Very early on, I wasn't looking to drop. I didn't know if this would work. As I mentioned, I think we had 4 or 5 clients for year 1 and 8 or 10 in year 2. So to drop $5,000 or $10,000, I wasn't looking to do that. So Accountants World came along. They have a great tool. In the states that I was in, which was Massachusetts 15 years ago, they did everything I needed it to do, and it worked wonderfully. It gave me very low cost barrier to entry. The cost per payroll was very reasonably priced. I still feel that way. I think, unfortunately, then we started dipping our toes into other states, and then we started realizing some of the inefficiencies. Then we started, now with all the new regulations that are coming out by different states, I don't think the technology's kept up with what needs to be there. So we have to handle it manually. We have to hire. It's we're too big, too many clientele to turn back now. So now we have to do what we have to do. So, but I think the software in general, I think, is great. Again, it handles payrolls wonderfully. It's easy for clients to maneuver around. It's just more the back end pain, which we feel as the providers, that I'm hopeful that as time goes and as Accountants World grows, and as they were obviously purchased by Iris a few years ago, and they're now merging with MyPay and so on. I think that hopefully some of those things come into order. What we're experiencing now is some of the, again, all-inclusive tools, Augusto, for example. There's a few others out there, but very similar, even Intuit for that matter. Time clocks included, which we don't have we have time clock partners, but partners don't work well. And when I have a problem with a partner, who's this Sean guy, right? So if it was all part of, one inclusive thing, and that would be easier for me. So we band-aid time clocks here and there. The employee onboarding is clunky. It's, that was whipped together. And I've been telling them 10 years ago how important that is. And I think employers are focusing more on human resource type issues, benefit plans, because they have to be competitive, right? I got a 17-year-old kid who signed up to work for the Cheesecake Factory out here. He's a host, and he pulls me into the office, and that one day in front of the computer, and he's got this wonderful, beautiful looking whole streamline onboarding thing with videos and handbooks, click here, click here. He's 17 and the only thing he had to ask me was how to fill out a W-4. And to be honest with you, there was a video for him to do that. He was just too lazy. So, this technology for a 17-year-old, and here I'm dealing with full-grown adults who are salary employees, and what we offer is just, again, second. It's a lower grade product. So at the end of the day, that's what I'm struggling with. Human resources is really, really, we've lost a number of people, especially in states like California, where they're being frightened into all the rules and regulations. So candidly, that's an area for 2024. Internally, we're going to look to grow and satisfy some, or try to retain some of the clients. And we're still adding clients every month, but we lose clients every month too. It's just always making sure we're adding more than losing. And so that's
more the attrition you're going to have. That's just kind of part of it.
That's what it is. Yeah, I remember losing my first client. I think I was in tears. Now I lose. Now I'm like, sometimes now I don't know who the client is, but that's an area where, again, I think. I really need the software to take care of a lot of the payroll stuff systematically, so that I can then turn some of my people to focus on some of these other well-rounded products that they need. And right now we're kind of grappling at both. So that'll be an area for me for 2024 that I'm going to look to kind of enhance.
Are you looking at any providers there that can fill that gap with integrations or even manual interventions to try to get that for clients?
You're talking more on the benefit HR side or more on the payroll?
Or the employee onboarding, or both.
So there are certainly partners that we have. Again, the last thing you want to bring on a new client and say, hey, we have a time clock, you got to log into here, an onboarding, you got to log into here, your payroll, you log into here. And then, by the way, if you have a 401k, it's over there. And if you have medical benefit, let me put you in touch with someone who's, entirely different organization. So what people love when they come to me is they say, oh, I get payroll, bookkeeping, and taxes all with one person. I love having less vendors. Then I hate to come back to them and say, great, we can handle all that, but here's the 17 vendors you need to have for our payroll solution. That's not something I want to advertise. So, most of our people over the years, fortunately, unfortunately, are small employers that don't require benefits, and that's been great. Now some of our employers are growing, even the small ones need benefits, so we have those items that we can leverage. We have partners, we have brokers, depending upon what they want. We've got 3 or 4 partners we have for time clocks. We have 3 or 4 partners they want for medical dental insurance. We've got 3 or 4 partners we have for 401ks. So we can handle that. It would just be obviously nice to have something a little more streamlined and centrally focused for us.
It would. I'm a little torn on that, to be honest, myself, just because I see the benefit of it, but I also think one of the strong points of Pay Relief has been its simplicity. And I kind of get nervous about it getting buggy if they try to do too many things. Because, we've all seen the software. I've demoed, a lot of softwares out there, iSolved, and a lot of these that say they do it all.
Sure.
They tend to get buggy over time just because some of those things don't work together as well as they're advertised. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the I do think the self-onboarding 100% needs to happen, and it needs to be free, because our competitors are offering that, and the product we have to pay extra for, and my clients want to pay extra for it because they look at Gusto, they look at all these providers, Paychecks. They've all got this built into the product. They don't have to pay for it. So why are they going to switch to me and then pay for something that was free with somebody else? And the product doesn't even work that well. So that's got to be fixed. But some of the other, a time clock would be cool. Time clock would be cool. But I've heard
nowadays, we've lost clients.
Go ahead.
I was nowadays we've lost clients. Everybody wants to do things from their phones. They want geo-referencing, geofencing, from their phones. And I'm like, hey, the sticky method really still works. The index card method still works, So, you got a lot of people nowadays who are not working. Remote working is a very real thing. So people being able to do things like that, companies are open longer. So the owner isn't there from start to end. There's shifts when they're not there at all. There's shifts when they're there from 9 to 2, or people coming in, coming out. So they want some type of something to keep track of that. The technology is, and so someone left me the other day, and she said the reason I'm leaving is because you can't offer a time clock that that my folks can all sign into on their phone. And I said, okay, I get it. It's something I can't help. So
yeah. I have heard, and you hear a lot of things, but Ira says their plan is to build out kind of this universe of integration. So whether maybe they build it into the software, or maybe they start actually building out an ecosystem of integrations, again, like our competitors have. You go to any of these websites and they've got a whole page of here's all the vendors that we integrate with. And even just to have that as a starting point, I think would be very helpful, because it's very hard to say, okay, we can do a timekeeping integration, but we have one partner we can do it with. So the client has no choice. And then if we're unhappy with that particular vendor,
right,
we're stuck, because I don't want to upload timesheets from 20 different time clock vendors that our clients go and pick and choose on their own. I want an integration for the client's ease of use, and then for my team also to not have to go out and figure out how all this is going to work and be error free. So
well, and the other thing too, years ago we used an onboarding service. I won't name them, but we used an onboarding service which really is one of the most popular in the industry, and they turned around and created a payroll and either bought or created a payroll system. So at the end of the day, here I am pushing people in that direction, and then I'm like, wait a minute, quickly pull them back, because they want to. So if they're a decent time clock entity, if they're big enough, they're going to have big partners, and they're going to, my clients are going to get knocked on the door by these partners and so on. So it's a risk.
Well, at the end of the day, we're still where we're at for a reason. So there's no perfect payroll software out there. I know that. Definitely hope and prod for better solutions. But I think my clients are really happy with the solution, and we've kind of internally band-aided, the stuff we talk about that is more manual intervention and requires some work. The nice thing about it is clients don't really know. Like, that's an internal problem that we have. We go fix it and we take care of it and we do all the filings. Of course, I'd love to click a button instead of going and keying information for Massachusetts PFML or whatever. But we do that. Fortunately, the client doesn't need to be aware of the extra work that we're doing, and it all feels seamless to them. So that's good.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the best thing that we can do is, we process their payroll, we do it on time, we get people paid when they need to be paid. We're very well priced, very competitively priced, much less than an ADP or a Paychex or even a Gusto for that matter. And our customer service, if something goes wrong, we got people parachuting in to fix it. I had a client come over the other day from Gusto, and they said they spent 3.5 hours on hold, and it never got fixed. So they actually brought the problem to us. We fixed the problem for them, and then took them on as a client. So that's the best we can do.
Yeah. That's the biggest difference, I think, is that, because I hear those stories all the time. Like, one of the worst ones I heard was someone that came over from Intuit. She couldn't figure out how to change her SUTA rate in the system. She literally could not change her own unemployment tax rate in the software. It had been entered as 5.4% instead of 0.54%. And so she was and there was an auto debit set up. She couldn't turn it off. She was about to get debited like $5,000 when she really owed $500. So she calls into it and she said she got transferred 10 times in one phone call. And she said she was on the phone for like 6 hours. And they didn't even solve the problem at the end of the day. And the way I fixed it for her was we did a very rapid transfer over to our system, and then she canceled her payroll account with Intuit before they did the debit. So that's
there you go.
that's how we fixed that one. But you hear those stories.
The
big players.
That's right. Self-service tools like that are just primed for errors. I mean, even on just the QuickBooks or Intuit, their bookkeeping software. I mean, there has never been a client that they have great marketing to let you know that how easy it is to do, but you need to be a payroll person to do payroll in Intuit. I can't tell you how many people we take over that have just made a mess of things, and then we spend days cleaning it up. It's for sure.
It's not as DIY as they.
That's right. Exactly.
So we've got a few more minutes here before we jump off. Let's talk about some of the other things you do that you actually work with other payroll providers like me. One thing we've partnered with you to do is do our W-2 printing and distribution. That's been super helpful. I know my team loves not printing, stuffing, mailing W-2s. We've been able to work with you because you have a great setup to outsource that very affordably, in my opinion. It's been totally worth it and a great experience to have your team handle that paper-based part of our business, so my team can really focus on getting all the compliance right. So talk about your setup, the printers you've got, and how you work with people like me to help with those needs.
Sure. So, years ago, obviously one of the things that I liked about accountants world was the ability to print checks. I know some people don't do checks, they do direct deposit only. We have a lot of employers that unfortunately that just doesn't work. So we print, we start off with just check printing. We print somewhere in the ballpark of 60,000 manual checks a year. And so, at one point in time when my clients were in the Northeast only, that wasn't too difficult to handle. We had to get bigger printers and things of that nature, but we were able to accommodate it. Then our client base started spreading throughout the country, and we have clients as far away as Hawaii, and I'm in, like I said, in the Massachusetts, Boston area. So we have 4 print sites now. We have one here in Boston, one in North Carolina, one in Chicago, and one in Arizona that handles our printing. So depending upon where the client lives in the country, at the end of the day at 5 p.m. Eastern, Central, Mountain Time, someone's printing checks. They're going in envelopes and they're being mailed out. On the W-2 side, years ago, this was actually a revelation to me. And years ago, we used to print on the paper on the W-2, the perforated paper, and we put it in W-2 envelopes. And then I one year decided to invest in a sealing machine so that we could print the perforated. What I didn't anticipate, because we do somewhere in the ballpark of 60,000 W-2s a year in-house. What I didn't anticipate at the time when I bought the machine, I figured this would take a long time to pay off and so on. The cost of purchasing the envelopes and the paper and then the extra weight for the postage, it was actually less expensive. Now, of course, I'm doing a lot of volume. If I'm doing 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000, that wouldn't have made sense. But when I was hitting 25,000 type of thing, the amount of money I was saving doing it that way was actually in excess of what I was spending on the raw material. So same type of thing we've got now, sealing machines. We only have them in 2 locations, our Massachusetts and our Chicago site. Because we do have some employers who ask for checks to be sealed. So we will get their signatures, of course, we'll seal them, we'll send them. And then at year end, we use the same machines, just different stock to do the W-2 printing. And it's a volume based thing. So depending upon how many W-2s you want, we will, give you a price, a quote, and that includes the material plus the sealing. And then we have multiple shipping options that we offer to our clients, as well as we offer to, for example, yourself. The option we chose with you this year and many too is we do all the W-2s, we put them in order as we get them by employer, and then we mail one big package to you, and then you can kind of sort and slice and dice how you want. The other option we offer is a direct mail. So we will literally stick a stamp on it. It's, an electronic stamp, and mail them individually. So it depends how the employer, we tell that to our employers as well. We'll send them one package to the place of business, and that way, if they have the ability to hand them out, they can. And then however, some people say, I don't want to deal with it, just send it to them individually. We'll do that as well.
And I think that's what we may do next year with
you.
I think we don't have to touch it at all, and it goes directly to the employees. And then the return address, if it returns for whatever reason, it goes directly back to the client and
to the employer.
Distribute it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think one of your folks reached out and asked about that for next year. So yeah, both are easy for us to do. This year, I think we did third-party printing, which I would refer to that as what we did for you. We did that for about a dozen clients, anywhere from, I think, a couple hundred, 300 maybe was the lowest, all the way up to 4,000 or 5,000 someone did. So, and everything in between. And we turn those around in somewhere, we get the file 24 to 48 hours. We can print, we have all of our own in-house printers, so we can print up to 20,000 sheets a day, and we can seal 30,000 sheets a day. So it's something, it's kind of impressive actually when you go to the office and see them. I mean, it's a loud day where the machines are just running, but the machine, it does, I don't know, hundreds every minute, 300 or 400 a minute or 200 a minute. I don't know what the numbers are, but basically we got someone feeding them in and someone quickly taking them off the conveyor because it's literally just spitting them as fast as you can. So anyways, we're always happy to help out folks if they need help with that, and printing as well. We do printing of third-party printing of checks. I know that you and I have talked about that. We'll do that too for a few small employers. Maybe I've got a guy in Florida. He's got a handful of people up in Massachusetts. He's asked me to print his checks. We do it for him. He's given me envelopes, and we put them in their envelopes and then mail them out. So just something we can handle as well if people need it.
Awesome. Got a question from somebody that's watching on Facebook. You want to take this one?
Yes. If using a third party for printing and mailing W-2s, does this negate any fees from AW? Gosh, I wish. That was a curveball a couple of years ago. We all got out of left field. That was W-2 printing is one of my favorite times because we make a couple of extra bucks at the end of the year. But unfortunately, no, we don't get any better discounts or anything along those lines. We pay the same. I presume. I know everybody pays a flat fee for those W-2s. So that's just
for them producing them and then e-filing them to the SSA. So the accountant's world isn't doing any printing or mailing of W-2. So if you want to do that or need to do that, that's on the firm to figure that out and pay for it.
Correct. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Sean, this has been a good conversation.
Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, that's it. I mean, I think we're all in the same boat. I love, if anybody has any comments or a follow up, feel free to hit me in the Facebook group. I'm in there. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. As everyone I'm sure is in the same boat. We're always looking for better ideas, streamlining, help, any way I can help you or vice versa. Please feel free to use me as a resource. It's always great to have a few more contacts out there in the folks using the software. And again, I enjoyed being here. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, perfect. And this will get posted out on LinkedIn and the Facebook group as well. So people can leave comments there. I can also be reached on LinkedIn, pretty active. That's probably the best place to reach me these days. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks Sean for joining. This has been a good time.
Yeah, same.
All right.